The past is the past. It's as deep as deep as I get at the start of a video. Um, Letting go of the past is a very, very challenging thing for people to do, and we all have a past by definition. If you've got to this whatever point in your life, there's things that have happened before, and I think anyone who says that they don't have things in their past that are maybe upsetting or regrets that they have, they're probably, well, say lying might be a bit harsh, but that's probably not true. Anyone that's lived any kind of life where they've had contact with people, there'll be things that have been upsetting, things that they regret. I guess even if you've somehow managed to live on your own on an island where the the only inhabitant was you might maybe regret not coming into contact with people. So so from my point of view, I feel like I'm 42 at the moment. I feel like I've achieved quite a lot of stuff in my life. I think I've kind of reached a point now where I can look back on things that I've done and maybe not do what I did before, which is kind of quickly write them off and move on to the next thing. I'm almost getting to the point now where I'm a bit conscious of the fact that am I just collecting achievements to some degree, but everything serves a purpose, which is a really important concept that I'm going to come back to. So, at times in my life, I would, kind of struggle to manage my mindset, and that was where coaching was really important for me. When I discovered it, and I didn't discover it until I was maybe late 30s. I was late 30s, so I had become a consultant. That was where I really started to struggle with a lot of the things I'd had for many years, like imposter syndrome and comparison and all these kind of things, which are all related, which I will no doubt talk about at various stages. But that was a real kind of peak of struggling to manage my mindset, really doubting myself, comparing myself to the people around me and other kind of fictional people, fictional ideals, feeling judged, worrying what people thought of me, feeling underconfident, feeling like I was a fraud, that I was going to get caught out. And then I was presented with the opportunity to be coached, which I did, and I explored a lot of these things. And then that led to me doing one coaching qualification and then into another one, which was very kind of intensive and over a period of time and required a lot of self-reflection. Really, it's a little bit like, I remember people talking about counselling. I remember talking to a person, not in a professional capacity, but a guy who was a counsellor, and he said that to become a counsellor you need to have counselling, and I think that's really common in amongst the sort of the talking professions, so therapists and counsellors and all this kind of stuff. You have to have a lot of that stuff to kind of explore your own issues to help you help other people. And it was the same with coaching. Through coaching you get a lot of coaching and you do a lot of coaching. And that was really interesting for me, so I got to really kind of shine the torchlight inwards, and I've discovered loads of stuff about myself through coaching that's helped me to figure out how to better manage myself. And some of that is, coaching is forward focused, so it's not really about sorting out what's happened in your past. That is more of a kind of therapy and counselling thing. But there will be things that have happened in the past that maybe affect you now. And I think I came up with a very simplistic thing that works for me, because occasionally I used to, the brain is incredibly negative. It's wired that way. It will latch on to negative. This is how social media algorithms work. So social media algorithms hone in on things that are quite negative because it's so powerful, and it will churn more of that out. So this is the reason why when you're scrolling through Facebook, there'll be negative news things and there'll be people having arguments on things because the algorithm loves it, apparently. I'm no expert on it. It's part of the reason why I've weaned myself off most forms of social media. Because I soak all that in like a sponge, as I was talking about before about empathy. That's another problem with being an empathic person, is you soak all that stuff in, and it used to really make me feel quite bad. Really, it would put my mindset in a really bad place. So I just avoid that now, and I avoid those kind of situations. But yeah, I used to, even just randomly, it was when you were in these situations where you were almost kind of into a bit of a flow state, so kind of automatic things like showering, driving, and you would get randomly, my brain would go back to times in the past where maybe I'd done something I wasn't massively proud of, and then I would start to feel the way the way I should be feeling about that. I was almost putting myself in those shoes, feeling guilty, feeling bad, feeling like I'd done something wrong. We're not talking about anything criminal or major, but just maybe little things that I'm not massively proud of, things that I feel I should have done better. And also the other thing I used to do was, it's not really related to the past, but it's just related to that kind of rumination. So I used to imagine like having conflict with people. I don't know, because I'm not a massive fan of conflict. So I would imagine like having like a future conflict with people. So yeah, but anyway, that's a topic for another day, but that's all kind of related. So, in terms of what's going on in the past, for me, there was a very simple way of addressing that. And if I started going off down that road, I would just say to myself, it all serves a purpose. Okay. And that might sound very superficial, but it means something to me, which is kind of the most important thing. And this is why you need to find your own way of dealing with these things. So whatever has happened in the past has made me what I am now. If I were to erase any of those things that had happened in the past, I don't know if you were to give me that opportunity. I'd like to say that I would say no, because actually you don't know what effect not having experienced that would have on you now. So actually maybe some of those things that you did in the past that you're not so proud of now, if you erased some or all of those, actually you might not be the person that you are now, where you are now. This is why I say it serves a purpose. It's that kind of butterfly effect. Try not to reference any more bad Ashton Kutcher films. Apologies if you're not watching Ashton. But you don't know. You're probably underestimating the role that has had in your life so far. And I guess that brings me to the main caveat on this, is that I am fortunate in that I haven't really had any majorly big traumatic things happen. There's been things that have happened, but I've certainly not experienced significant childhood trauma, or even adulthood trauma in the way that some people have. Some people have had terrible upbringings, and I've spoken to many of them over the years, and in the various roles that I've worked in, and people do horrible things to each other. So some people do them, some people experience them. The people who do them are often people who've experienced them in the past. It's a horrible cycle that's very hard to break out of. So I definitely don't want to minimise incredibly bad traumatic things that have happened to people in the past. And I'm not saying that it's as straightforward as just saying it all serves a purpose. That's very easy for me to say. But actually that kind of lesson is still valid, but actually it may be that it's not as straightforward as you just telling yourself that actually that's the kind of thing that you need to go and receive professional input from, which I guess goes back to counsellors and therapists who have to go through counselling and therapy of their own to properly understand themselves, to be able to help people that need help unraveling the baggage that they've accumulated through their lives. So yeah, if you're someone who has a lot of past regrets, try and think if you can reframe them as things that happened. You made a decision that was based on the information that you had available to you at the time. Maybe best intentions, maybe not, but it happened. You can't erase it, so you need to accept it to some degree. And some of these things might not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to do something now to stop it from affecting you going forward. So everything that's happened in the past serves a purpose. If it's very bad or you're struggling with that as a concept, perhaps you need to think about talking to someone who can help you unravel it. And I think on that deep note, that's all I have to say. So let me know what you think of that. Let me know if you're a normal human being and you have things from your past that you regret, and how you kind of manage those and move on. And I will catch you next time.